Join us as we uncover the symbols, the stories, explore the mysteries, the power, and the legacy of a kingdom that is still unfolding. This is a journey where history, prophecy, power, and people converge, and the story is still being written, from ancient kingdoms to the spaces where modern voices meet. Voices that refuse to be silenced, part of a heritage that continues to shape the present. The past is not dead, it lives, it speaks. And here, we listen, we reason, we respond, and we testify. We dive into ancient truths, symbols, and signs still relevant today. The scepter has not departed, the mystery is not lost, and the kingdom, it is still unfolding, one episode at a time. This is more than a podcast, it's a return to the source. Welcome to the Scepter of Zion, where ancient truths meet modern voices. And now, to conversations, truth, and power, the scroll begins to open. And here to guide us through the gates, your trusted voice and seasoned guide, a voice for the remnant, your host, Ruben B.
Knights of the Templar. It's a new, quieter force began to take shape. One that will operate in the shadows. They took a vow. They operated like not on an open battlefield, but in secrecy. So pilgrims, they flooded the roads to travel to the holy city, Jerusalem. They was traveling through these territories that were still unstable and violent, of course, so you need some protection somewhere, buddy. So in response, a small band of knight monks took an oath for conquest. Oh, wait a minute, not for conquest, but for protection. They call themselves the fellow soldiers of Christ, of the Temple of Solomon, later known to history as the Knights of Templar. Their headquarters was established on the Temple Mount, a site layered with ancient authority. This was the former location of Solomon's temple. This place here, Solomon's temple, was the symbolic seat of kingship, law, and covenant. It's here beneath the surface, crusading politics and religious spectacles that power, memory, and legacy quietly converge. The Templars did not emerge in isolation. They arose from the vacuum left by conquest, from the need to control this sacred space, this sacred place, and from the long-standing belief that Jerusalem held more than just territory, it held meaning. Over time, this order would evolve from guardians of the road into custodians of wealth, intelligence, and influence, shaping the world in a way that far outlived the Crusaders themselves. Not towards legend, but towards structure. Not towards myth, but towards intent. Who remained, who organized, who inherit the authority of this sacred ground. Once these swords were set aside. That's right. So power is not accidental. Is it inherited, seized, documented, and defended? For centuries, authorities have been passed not only through bloodlines and borders, but through symbols, institutions, and narrative carefully preserved by those who understood their value. There was an order there. a handshake, huh? Secret order. This is not a story of myth. It is a record of succession. Empires rising, claiming divine mandate, orders formed in the shadows of crusades, relics, texts, titles are guarded, reinterpreted, and weaponized, each generation shaping history in its own image. Here we examine the forces that shape kingdoms, justify wars, and build systems that still govern the modern world. We separate tradition from revision, belief from power and legacy, and from propaganda. Yeah. This is the Scepter of Zion, where history is retold. I am this modern voice. History is re-examined. I'm broadcasting from ancient futures. I'm your host, Dr. Overthinker. The First Crusade. Let's talk about this First Crusade. It was launched for religious, political, and economic reasons. And that's the reason why we fight modern wars now. Same thing. The exact same reason. Ain't nothing changed. They try to use religions as the central justification for this First Crusade. It was religious motivation. Right there from your Catholic Church. Right there from your church. So in 1095, Pope Urban II called for a holy war to liberate Jerusalem and Christians' pilgrimage routes. From who? From Muslim control. So the city was sacred to Christians, Muslims. They said Jews, but in reality, it's Hebrews. There's no J in the Hebrew language. To this very second, that word Jew came from a Latin European term. But the church framed Muslims' rule as an affront. It was a threat to Christianity. Crusaders were promised remission of sins, a powerful incentive in medieval Christian theology. Right? But you know what? I think I have some microphone footage of Pope Urban II's speech that day. And I'm going to play it. This is actual footage from 1095 from the Pope Urban II giving his fiery speech for the reason why you need to fight this First Crusade.
Yeah, baby, look here. These people out here, man, they ain't letting these pilgrims pass through to get this bread, to get this banana wine. We're gonna have to fight, man. These suckers, no way, they can't be blocking the road. So, you're gonna have the remission of your sins removed, baby. All the evil and stuff that you did back then, I'm just gonna forgive that for you. Get some rocks, some sticks. We getting ready to go and fight. This is a crusade that needs to happen, baby. Hey, somebody pour me some banana wine. Hey, you over there, give me, Ruben, your name Ruben B? Give me some of that banana wine, boy. Yeah, I feel liberated right now. Yeah, get your sticks and rocks and let's go do this, baby.
Yeah, they felt liberated. See, it's important that I share that with you because, sometimes audio, it get lost. Sometimes, you know, written stuff get burnt, because they was into burning libraries and stuff like that. But this is also was political motivated. Huh? The Pope, he sought to unify Western Europe under whose authority? Rome. Under Rome's authority. Hmm? But the Eastern Roman Empire under Emperor Alexo the first Commisino, I guess I said your name right, but anyway, he asked for military aid. He needed help. Now, remember, I told you earlier lessons that Rome, these empires were so big that they divided them up west, east, right? This is just how it happened. This is what they did. It was that big. But Alexo, he asked for help. I need some help, man. I know that Urban got them all fired up and everything like that, but I think he really bit off more than he can chew. Yes, he did. Man, he needed some help from the Seljuks, well, against the Seljuks, Turks. And these dudes were no joke. But anyway, Rome expanded this request into a full crusade. All because Urban gave this fiery speech. Okay. Anyway, they were also, it was economic and social pressure. The European nobles, of course, the rich dudes, they wanted land, wealth, and titles. The same thing right now. Land, wealth, and titles. This is this ego thing from these European nobles that they wanted. They wanted this power. Younger sons with no inheritance viewed the East as an opportunity. Oh, yeah, I want to get a come up, baby. Time for me to rise up and get mine. So they actually saw this war as an opportunity, right? So the trade routes to the East promised immense profits. Yeah, we're going to get rich off of this, man. But of course, you know that Christ taught peace and humility. His name, his teachings, his practice was used to justify mass violence. Same thing right now. They're doing it right now. They tried to weaponize the scriptures. And they did. They didn't want to follow divine law. They didn't definitely want to be peacekeepers. They didn't want that. So, of course, these crusaders or these knights or templars, right? Well, actually, the Knights of Templars came after that. But these Christian forces, this whole thing was initiated by this Pope, Urban II. Where's Urban I? Maybe he had a little bit more common sense. So he has some nobles come up there. Godfrey was there. Raymond the Fourth was there. Bohemond was there. They're like, yeah, baby. We're going to have to go on and fight, man, because I want this land. I want this wealth, man. Send these little young kids off to die for this, man. Yeah. But you know what? This is funny right here to me. Then it's not funny. What happened? Thousands of peasants, inspired by a preacher named Peter the Hermit, from the Roman Catholic Church leadership. How you gonna call yourself Peter the Hermit, man? Huh? What you gonna do, Hermit? You gonna help us fight Hermit? Huh? Because you getting ready to go up against some powerful Muslim forces. Right now. Oh, yeah. Let's get ready to happen, baby. Oh, yes. But anyway, it's time for me to take a break. I'll be right back with some more scenes from the First Crusade. I think I might have some more microphone footage there. You want to stay tuned for this? Well, welcome back. We back. We're going to continue this journey about the First Crusade. As I mentioned before we went to break, about Peter the Hermit of the Roman Catholic Church riled up a crowd of peasants to go to war. Yeah, to go to war. For one, against these very powerful Muslim Eastern powers. The Seljuk Turks, the Fatimid Caliphate, which basically they were in control of Jerusalem, right? They were. But some of the Muslim, I guess, tribe, well, they weren't tribes, but people or sects or however you want to call their power structure, was politically divided. So, during the Crusade, a lot of the Hebrew Israelites were massacred. They were massacred. Despite having no role in this conflict. They basically just wanted you off their land. Just coming over here causing so much hectic and turmoil. Just get out of here. Get gone already. They had nothing to do with this. So, the Hebrew population in Europe and Levant. Y'all know what Levant is? You do? Like I said, they were killed. They were massacred, basically. So Levant is a historical geographic term referring to Eastern Mediterranean region, where the sun rises. That's right. This area lies along the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. So it's modern day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. That's what it was, the modern day. So, but in ancient times, this was a trade route between Africa, Asia, and Europe. Right? This is where a lot of ancient empires rose. It's so-called the origin of Christianity and Islam and Judaism. But once again, There's no religion in the Hebrew culture. It's more spirituality. It's more laws, status, judgments, and commandments. That's not a religion. I don't call that a religion. Okay. So well, maybe you do call it a religion. I don't know. That's on you. But like I said, this was oh, you know what? Let me give you a historical name for that area. The land of Israel. The land of Judah. Right? You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, it was. It was also called the Greater Syria in the Islamic period. It was also the birthplace of alphabetic writing, Polynesians, core region of biblical history, key battleground during the Crusades. It's a center of imperial control for the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Ottomans. Wow. They just wanted to fight over this area. The Levant is the Eastern Mediterranean corridor where, like I said, Africa, Asia, Europe meets. And it is one of the most historical, influential regions on Earth. Amazing. So there were some areas that some of the fighting took place throughout this First Crusade. Western Europe, right? You have this recruitment there, then departure into war. Turkey, Asia Minor, which is Turkey. Constantinople, which is modern day Istanbul. Antioch, Edessa, Jerusalem. This is where some of these fightings took place. But you know, in 1099, Jerusalem was sieged. Crusaders captured the city. Muslim and Hebrews were slaughtered indiscriminately. Wow. And so it also established the Crusader states, the Kingdom of Jerusalem, County of Edessa, Principality of Antioch, County of Tripoli, temporary Christian control of Jerusalem. But basically what this did was just lay the groundwork for centuries of religious wars. We still to this very second fighting wars over religion. My God's bigger than your God. Well, my God can do this. Your God can't do that. My God do this. Still to this very second. So, but with that war, it just deepened the hostility between Christians, Muslims, and Hebrews. To this very second, right now. Wow. Still fighting. But with that First Crusade, Rome continued its imperial conquest. So now Jerusalem is under Christian banner. It was a departure from the Hebraic moral laws and teachings of the Christ mindset, of the Christ ideology. The Romans took over and watered it down. They tried to use spiritual language to justify their empires. Not with righteousness. They didn't do that. They didn't. Now I want to let's cover like how the church defined the Knights of Templar from a legal Catholic standpoint, right? The Knights Templar were a religious order governed by a canon law, not secular law. They weren't a secular army. So they were officially recognized in 1129 from the Council of Troy. So the members, they took monastic vows. Well, anyway, they took vows. I think I'm saying it wrong. They took orders from the Pope. What's that term? One de tome optium in 1139. They answered only to the Pope, exempt from local bishops, kings, and courts, and taxes and tolls. They built fortresses and churches, maintained armed forces. They administered internal justice. Basically, they were monks with swords. A category that the church created especially during the Crusade era. Yeah. Wow. So by the 12th and 13th century, they were one of the most disciplined fighting forces in the Mediterranean. They controlled these fortresses. And check this out. This is how deep they were. International banking. Letters of credit. Owners of vast land in Europe and the Levant. So that included Turkey. That included parts of Africa, Asia. But you know what this did? This created tension. This created tension against the wealthy or the wealthier monarchs and kings. For one, they were independent of the kings. But see, they were militarily trained, fortified, and mobile. Man, they run up on you, man. Don't let me come knocking on your door, bro. Right? They were too powerful to ignore, too independent to control. It's like, hey, we got a problem here. These Knights of Templars were not merely soldiers. They monks, man. They train for war. We got to be careful talking to them a certain way. You know, we're dealing with them. You know, we can't, got to be careful. You know, they sanctioned by the church and they sworn to God and they armed for holy conflict. Right? They were from an elite order that carried out sacred violence under divine authority. What? They did all that? So, this power without borders, it created fear. And fear in the hands of kings became accusation. You know, it was sold as a holy mission to create this entity, right? But it was economic, political power. Ain't that what they want? They want all this power. But you know what? We're coming to the end of the show. Be sure to like YouTube, Spotify. Who else? Apple Music, Amazon. Follow us, like. I'm going to cover part 2 of Second Crusade. I'm going to finish up with the rest of the First Crusade next week, because there's still a lot more. It's kind of little. It has a twist to it. So you definitely want to tune in next week. Until next week, Shalom Aleichem.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Scepter of Zion. If something stirred your spirit, sparked a memory, or whispered truth into your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, walk in it. We invite you to invite others into the conversation, into the unfolding. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement returning to the root and rising with the call. Until next time, hold the line, guard the flame, and never forget who you are, because the kingdom isn't coming. It's already here and rising, one voice at a time.
You've been listening to the Scepter of Zion, a Kingdom of Shalom production. Subscribe, share, and join us as Zion rises again.